The emergency lights bathed the Galactic Council Hall in a crimson glow as Rebecca Torres smoothed the lapels of her formal diplomatic attire. The massive chamber, suspended in orbit around the planet Nouvelle, normally projected an atmosphere of dignified deliberation. Today, it felt like the prelude to an execution. 5 minutes until your presentation. Dr. Torres, whispered Marcus Webb, his silver-streaked hair catching the red emergency lights. As the head of the human diplomatic mission, Webb had spent the last 3 decades navigating the labyrinthine politics of interstellar relations. His voice remained calm, but the tension in his shoulders betrayed his concern. Rebecca nodded, mentally reviewing her quantum tunneling presentation one final time. After 15 years of research on Earth, she had earned the right to represent the Human Science Consortium at this critical juncture. The fate of humanity's scientific standing among the stars rested on her ability to explain complex physics to a room of skeptical alien dignitaries. Remember, Webb added, leaning closer, Ambassador Villara will be looking for any opportunity to discredit your work. The Villari supremacy has maintained their wormhole monopoly for 2 centuries. They won't surrender it easily. Rebecca's gaze drifted across the chamber to where Ambassador Villara stood, surrounded by her delegation. Standing at nearly 7 feet tall, the Villari ambassador cut an imposing figure. Her silvery skin reflected the emergency lights, giving her an almost predatory appearance. The cybernetic enhancements visible at her temples pulsed with subtle light patterns that humans had long ago learned to recognize as indicators of emotional states. Currently, they displayed the rapid, asymmetric pattern of barely contained agitation. "I've studied their technology extensively," Rebecca replied, keeping her voice low. "Their wormhole generators operate on principles similar to our quantum tunneling prototypes. The difference is one of scale and application, not fundamental science." Webb's expression grew grim. "That's precisely what concerns me. The Villari have built their entire economy around controlling interstellar transport. If Earth develops independent means of faster-than-light travel, then we finally gain equal standing in the Galactic Council," Rebecca finished, "and perhaps some leverage in trade negotiations." A deep, slow voice interrupted their conversation. "Dr. Rebecca Torres of Earth, your presentation will commence in 2 minutes." They turned to find Koval, the Zenthari coordinator, hovering nearby. Like all Zenthari, Koval's translucent body rippled with bioluminescent patterns that supplemented his verbal communication. The current pattern suggested respectful attention. "Thank you, Coordinator," Rebecca replied with a formal nod. "I'm prepared." Koval's body pulsed with acknowledgement. "I must remind all delegates that this session is being broadcast throughout Council space. The proceedings today will establish precedent for future scientific cooperation between member species." As Koval drifted away, Webb placed a reassuring hand on Rebecca's shoulder. "Humanity is counting on you, Dr. Torres. But no pressure." Rebecca managed a smile. "None whatsoever." The chamber's lighting shifted, drawing attention to the central podium. Rebecca took her position, activating the holographic display with a gesture. Behind her, a 3-dimensional model of quantum particles materialized, their movements synchronized to her presentation controls. "Distinguished delegates of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice clear and measured. "I come before you today to present the latest advances in human quantum tunneling technology." From her peripheral vision, Rebecca noticed Ambassador Villara moving closer, her cybernetic implants now flashing in the agitated pattern that humans had learned to recognize as hostility. "For the past 15 years," Rebecca continued, "Earth scientists have been exploring the fundamental relationship between consciousness and quantum states. Our research suggests that properly calibrated human neural patterns can influence quantum probability fields at a distance." A murmur rippled through the assembled delegates. Rebecca advanced her presentation, and the holographic display shifted to show experimental data. In controlled laboratory conditions, we have successfully transmitted matter across distances of up to 2 kilometers without traditional transportation methods. The quantum state of the original matter is collapsed, then reconstructed at the target destination using entangled particles as guidance. As Ambassador Valara stepped forward, the ceremonial medallions on her formal attire jingling softly. "The Council recognizes Ambassador Valara of the Valari Supremacy," announced Koval. "What Dr. Torres describes is theoretical impossibility," Valara declared, her translator rendering her harsh native language into smoothly accented English. "Quantum entanglement cannot transmit information faster than light. This is established physics, agreed upon by all Council scientific authorities for over 5 centuries. Rebecca maintained her composure. "With respect, Ambassador, human consciousness appears to interact with quantum states in ways not previously documented. Our research has." "Your research," Valara interrupted, her voice rising, "contradicts fundamental principles of physics accepted throughout civilized space. These principles form the basis of the unified transport protocols that have maintained peace and order for generations." Rebecca gestured to her data displays. "The experimental evidence is clearly fabricated," Valara concluded, turning to address the wider chamber. "Honorable delegates, we have seen this pattern before. A newly spacefaring species, eager to circumvent established protocols, presents revolutionary discoveries that conveniently bypass regulatory frameworks." Rebecca felt heat rising in her cheeks but kept her voice level. "Ambassador, I assure you, our data has been verified by human institutions." Valara cut in again. "Hardly independent." Kaval's body flashed with warning patterns. "The Council reminds the Valari delegation that interrupting presentations violates protocol." Valara inclined her head in acknowledgement, but continued speaking. "The Valari Supremacy formally requests that all human quantum tunneling research be suspended pending a full investigation by Council authorities. Furthermore, we propose sanctions against Earth for attempting to destabilize the interstellar transport economy with fraudulent scientific claims." The chamber erupted in murmurs. Rebecca waited for the noise to subside before responding. "Distinguished delegates," she said, "humanity has adhered to all Council protocols regarding scientific disclosure. Our research was submitted to the Scientific Subcommittee 6 standard months ago. As required, we have nothing to hide." She advanced her presentation to the next sequence. "What you are seeing is a visual representation of quantum probability fields being influenced by calibrated neural patterns. The human brain, when properly trained, can—" "Enough of this deception!" Valara strode forward, positioning herself directly before Rebecca. "You claim human consciousness can manipulate quantum states? This isn't science, it's primitive mysticism dressed in technical language." Rebecca stood her ground. "Ambassador, if you'd allow me to complete my explanation." The blow came without warning. Valara's hand moved in a swift arc, connecting with Rebecca's cheek with enough force to snap her head to the side. The sound echoed through the suddenly silent chamber. Rebecca staggered back, her hand instinctively rising to her face, where an angry purple mark was already forming. The Valari's silver skin contained trace elements that left distinctive bruising on human tissue. For 3 heartbeats, nobody moved. The council chamber remained frozen in collective shock. Rebecca straightened, her expression hardening to stone as she looked directly into the broadcast cameras. "For the record," she stated, her voice unnervingly calm, "I formally declare this an act of diplomatic hostility against a representative of Earth. Ambassador Valara seemed to realize the magnitude of her error. Her cybernetic implants flickered in patterns, suggesting alarm. "A misunderstanding," she began. "In Valari culture, physical contact is sometimes—" "Dr. Torres, are you injured?" Webb rushed to Rebecca's side, his diplomatic training momentarily forgotten. "I'm fine," Rebecca replied, not taking her eyes from the cameras. "But in light of this incident, Earth will be suspending all data sharing regarding our quantum tunneling research, effective immediately." Webb recovered his composure and addressed the council. "The human delegation formally requests disciplinary action against Ambassador Valara for this unprovoked assault." Caval's body rippled with urgent patterns. "The council will recess for 1 hour to deliberate on this incident. All delegates are asked to remain within the station." As the chamber erupted into chaotic debate, Rebecca maintained her rigid posture, the purple handprint on her cheek like a battle flag. "I need to get you to medical," Webb murmured. "Not yet," Rebecca replied quietly. "Every camera in council space is on us right now. I won't give them the satisfaction of seeing me retreat." Across the chamber, Valara was being urgently counseled by her delegation, her cybernetic implants now pulsing with the pattern humans had learned to interpret as profound distress. The emergency lights continued to bathe the room in crimson. The Galactic Council's emergency session reconvened with a tension that seemed to charge the very air. Rebecca had refused medical treatment, allowing the purple handprint on her face to remain visible, a silent testimony to what had transpired. Caval hovered at the central platform, his translucent body displaying the formal patterns of council adjudication. After review of the incident, the council finds that Ambassador Valara violated diplomatic protocols through physical assault of an Earth representative. Murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. "However," Koval continued, "as this is a first offense, and considering the cultural differences that may have contributed to the misunderstanding, the council recommends a formal apology, and—" A junior human officer rushed into the chamber, ignoring protocol to approach Webb directly. After a hurried whisper, Webb's expression shifted from diplomatic neutrality to alarm. "Coordinator Koval," Webb interrupted, "I must request the council's attention to an urgent security matter." Caval's body rippled with annoyance, but he gestured for Webb to continue. "Earth's orbital monitoring stations have detected significant hyperspace disturbances throughout the Sol system," Webb announced. "These energy signatures match known patterns associated with cloaked vessels." The chamber erupted once more. "Earth accuses the Valari of intrusion into sovereign space," Valara declared, her cybernetic implants flashing indignantly. "I made no such accusation, Ambassador," Webb replied coolly. "I merely reported factual observations. However, it is interesting that you immediately assumed we were referring to Valari vessels." Ambassador Valara's silver skin seemed to pale further. "The Valari supremacy categorically denies any unauthorized presence in Earth space." "Perhaps," Rebecca interjected, stepping forward. "The council would benefit from reviewing our sensor data." She gestured, and the central holographic display shifted to show complex energy readings. "These disturbances appeared within 20 minutes of my presentation beginning." Caval studied the data, his body displaying patterns of analytical concentration. "These readings are consistent with multiple vessels using standard council-approved cloaking technology." "How convenient," Valara said, "that Earth detects invisible threats just when their scientific claims are being questioned." Rebecca maintained her composure. "The data speaks for itself. Ambassador, unless you're suggesting that Earth has somehow fabricated these readings as well?" Before Valara could respond, the chamber's communications array chimed with an incoming priority signal. "The Council recognizes an emergency transmission from Earth Space Command," Koval announced. The holographic display shifted to show a stern-faced human woman in a military uniform, adorned with the insignia of Fleet Admiral. "This is Admiral Catherine Morrison of Earth Space Command. In response to unauthorized presence in Earth sovereign space, I have ordered the activation of Article 7 emergency protocols." Webb paled visibly. "Admiral Morrison, this is Dr. Marcus Webb. The Council is addressing the situation diplomatically. There's no need for—" "Dr. Webb, our sensors have confirmed hyperspace signatures consistent with stealth surveillance vessels throughout the Sol system." Morrison interrupted. "As per Earth defense protocols, I am suspending all diplomatic channels pending security verification." The Admiral's gaze hardened as she continued. "Furthermore, Earth Space Command is implementing Contingency Omega. All human diplomatic personnel are hereby recalled, effective immediately." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the Council chamber in stunned silence. "What is Contingency Omega?" Koval demanded, his body pulsing with alarm patterns. Webb hesitated. "It's a precautionary measure. Nothing to be concerned about. The human delegation will explain this precautionary measure immediately," Valara insisted, her cybernetic implants now displaying patterns of acute agitation. Before Webb could respond, the chamber's monitoring systems activated with urgent alerts. Holographic displays throughout the room showed sudden spatial distortions, appearing across 3 major sectors of Council space. "Multiple hyperspace ruptures detected," announced the automated system. 417 unregistered vessels emerging from faster-than-light travel. The chamber descended into chaos as delegates from 47 species began shouting accusations and demands. "Earth has concealed a military fleet," Valara's voice cut through the din. "This is an act of war against the Council." Rebecca remained unnaturally calm, the purple handprint on her cheek now a stark contrast to her composed expression. She said nothing, allowing the diplomatic chaos to unfold around her. Webb attempted to regain control of the situation. "The Council must not jump to conclusions. We have no confirmation that these vessels are of Earth origin." "Your Admiral just activated your military protocols," Valara countered. "The timing cannot be coincidental." Koval's body flashed with imperative patterns, silencing the chamber. "The Council demands immediate explanation from the Earth delegation." Webb looked to Rebecca, who simply nodded once. "Earth has maintained a scientific research fleet," Webb began carefully, "dedicated to deep space exploration and quantum field studies. These vessels operate independently from regular diplomatic channels." "A secret fleet?" Valara pressed. "How many other treaties has Earth violated?" "No treaties have been violated." Rebecca finally spoke, her voice cutting through the tension. "The Treaty of Proxima Centauri restricts conventional faster-than-light technology. Our vessels do not use conventional FTL drives." The implication hung in the air like a drawn weapon. "Impossible," Valara whispered, but her cybernetic implants betrayed her uncertainty. "Human quantum tunneling technology cannot be advanced enough for starship transportation." Rebecca simply raised an eyebrow, letting the sudden appearance of hundreds of undetected human vessels speak for itself. The chamber's communication array chimed again. "Incoming transmission from Secretary Patricia Moore, Earth Diplomatic Authority," announced the system. The holographic display activated, showing an elegant woman with steel-gray hair. "Distinguished members of the Galactic Council," she began. "I regret that our first direct communication must occur under such circumstances." Secretary Moore's image was replaced by a strategic display showing the positions of the newly revealed Earth vessels. They had emerged in a precise formation, creating a loose perimeter around the Council station and key diplomatic hubs. In light of the unprovoked assault on Dr. Rebecca Torres, and the subsequent detection of cloaked vessels in Earth space, the governments of Earth have authorized the deployment of our integrated defense fleet. The display zoomed in to show one of the Earth vessels, sleek, gleaming ships with distinctive quantum field generators visible along their hulls. I wish to emphasize, Moore continued, that this is not an act of aggression. Rather, it is a demonstration of Earth's legitimate defensive capabilities, which we have developed within the bounds of existing treaties. Valara could no longer contain herself. The Valari supremacy will not be intimidated by this obvious military threat. The Council must impose immediate sanctions against Earth for this deception. Secretary Moore's expression remained placid. Ambassador Valara, I believe your position to demand anything has been somewhat compromised by your physical assault of our scientific envoy. The Secretary's image was replaced by footage of Valara striking Rebecca, the purple handprint vivid on the human scientist's face. Earth proposes the immediate implementation of the Human Integration Accords. Moore continued as her image reappeared. These accords will establish new protocols for scientific cooperation, including shared development of quantum tunneling technology. The Secretary paused, her gaze seeming to fix directly on Valara. Additionally, we require a formal, public apology from Ambassador Valara to be broadcast throughout Council space. The Council chamber erupted once more as delegates from dozens of species tried to speak simultaneously. Some demanded Earth's immediate expulsion from the Council. Others called for a full investigation of Valari wormhole monopolies. A few voices suggested that perhaps a new balance of power might benefit interstellar relations. Through it all, Rebecca Torres remained silent, the purple handprint on her cheek like a battle standard. Caval's body flashed with patterns so urgent they transcended the normal translation protocols. The Council will recess for emergency deliberations, he announced. All military forces are ordered to stand down immediately. As delegates began filing out, Rebecca finally turned to Webb. Now, she said quietly, I'll accept that medical attention. Webb stared at her with newfound respect. You knew this would happen. Rebecca's composed mask slipped just enough to reveal a hint of satisfaction. Ambassador Valara has been undermining human scientific credibility for years. Sometimes, Dr. Webb, one must allow an opponent enough rope to hang themselves. The purple handprint on her cheek seemed almost like a badge of honor now. 48 hours after what was already being called the slap heard across the galaxy, the Galactic Council reconvened in extraordinary session. The emergency lights had been replaced with the standard illumination, but the tension remained palpable. Earth's newly revealed fleet maintained its position, close enough to demonstrate resolve, far enough to avoid appearing directly threatening. The ship's quantum field signatures pulsed in a synchronized pattern that Council scientists were still struggling to analyze. Rebecca Torres, the bruise on her cheek now faded to a yellowish hue but still visible, sat calmly beside Webb as Koval called the session to order. After extensive deliberation, the Zenthari coordinator began, his body displaying formal adjudication patterns. The Council has reached the following determinations. The chamber fell silent as delegates from 47 species awaited the verdict that could reshape interstellar relations for generations. First, regarding the assault on Dr. Rebecca Torres, Ambassador Valara violated diplomatic protocols and must issue a formal apology. Second, regarding Earth's undisclosed fleet, while no existing treaties explicitly prohibited Earth's development of quantum tunneling vessels, the Council censures Earth for failing to disclose these capabilities through appropriate channels. Murmurs rippled through the chamber, but Koval continued. Third, regarding the proposed Human Integration Accords, the Council has conducted preliminary review and finds the proposal worthy of consideration. A specialized committee will be formed to negotiate final terms. Ambassador Valara's cybernetic implants flickered with patterns, suggesting profound discomfort as she rose from her seat. All eyes in the chamber focused on her as she approached the central podium. "Distinguished delegates," she began, her voice lacking its usual imperious tone. "On behalf of the Valari Supremacy, I formally apologize for my inappropriate physical contact with Dr. Rebecca Torres of Earth." Rebecca maintained her impassive expression as Valara continued. "My actions reflected poorly on the dignity of this council and violated the trust placed in diplomatic representatives. The Valari people have always prided ourselves on technological advancement and scientific rigor. In my zealousness to protect what I perceived as established scientific principles, I failed to exemplify these values." Valara paused, her cybernetic implants displaying patterns that human observers interpreted as genuine contrition. Whether authentic or merely diplomatic theater remained unclear. "Furthermore," she continued, "the Valari Supremacy expresses willingness to participate in the proposed committee to evaluate the Human Integration Accords, including provisions for shared development of quantum tunneling technology." For 3 minutes and 47 seconds, Valara continued her apology, acknowledging the cultural differences that may have contributed to the misunderstanding while accepting full personal responsibility for her actions. When she finally returned to her seat, the chamber remained silent for several moments. Caval's body rippled with formal acknowledgement patterns. "The Council accepts Ambassador Valara's apology and will now proceed to vote on the formation of the Special Committee for the Human Integration Accords." One by one, representatives from each species registered their votes. The Krexani, long frustrated by Valari transport monopolies, were first to support the measure. They were quickly followed by the Moran Collective and the Kixani Federation. In the end, 17 species voted in favor, with the remainder abstaining. None voted against. "The motion carries," Koval announced. "The special committee will convene within 1 standard council week. In the meantime, Earth is requested to maintain its fleet at a distance of no less than 1 light hour from major council installations." Rebecca finally spoke. "Earth accepts these terms and will begin withdrawing vessels to the specified perimeter immediately." As the session concluded, Ambassador Valara approached Rebecca, maintaining a respectful distance. "Dr. Torres," she said quietly, "I would like to extend a personal invitation. The Valari Science Academy has reviewed your research data more thoroughly. We believe there may be significant synergies between your quantum consciousness interface and our wormhole stabilization techniques." Rebecca studied the ambassador for a moment before responding. "Science transcends political boundaries. Ambassador, I would be pleased to collaborate with your researchers." Valara's cybernetic implants displayed a pattern humans had rarely observed in Valari interactions, one that suggested genuine intellectual curiosity. "Perhaps," Valara suggested, "this unfortunate incident might ultimately lead to beneficial outcomes for both our species." Rebecca allowed herself a small smile. "That, Ambassador, has been my hope all along." 6 months later, the Unity Research Station orbited the neutral space between Valari and human territories. Its distinctive ring structure housed laboratories where scientists from Earth worked alongside researchers from the Valari Supremacy, the Moran Collective, the Kixani Federation, and a dozen other council species. In the central presentation chamber, Rebecca Torres stood before a diverse audience of the galaxy's leading scientific minds. The holographic display behind her showed real-time quantum field manipulations responding to neural input patterns. "The quantum consciousness interface has progressed beyond our initial projections," Rebecca explained. by incorporating elements of Volari wormhole stabilization, Miran psychic amplification, and Kixani probability mathematics. We've achieved stable matter transportation across distances of up to 12 light-years. Ambassador Valara, now serving as the Volari Science Academy's representative to the Unity Project, nodded appreciatively from the front row. Her cybernetic implants displayed patterns of scientific engagement rather than the diplomatic caution that had once characterized her interactions with humans. "Dr. Torres," she asked, "how does the neural calibration process accommodate non-human consciousness patterns?" Rebecca advanced her presentation to show comparative data. "That's where the collaborative nature of this project has proven invaluable. Each species interacts with quantum fields differently. The Volari, for instance, process probability states through entirely different neural pathways than humans do." She gestured, and the display shifted to show a Volari researcher interfacing with the system. "By mapping these differences and finding complementary patterns, we've discovered that certain combinations of consciousness types create more stable quantum tunnels than any single species could maintain alone." The implications hung in the air, not just a technological breakthrough, but a fundamental shift in how species might relate to one another throughout the galaxy. As Rebecca concluded her presentation and opened the floor for questions, she caught Webb's eye from where he stood at the back of the chamber. The veteran diplomat gave her a subtle nod of approval. No one mentioned the purple handprint that had once marked her cheek. No one needed to. The slap that might have started a war had instead launched the greatest collaborative scientific endeavor in Council history. Later, as Rebecca stood in the observation dome watching distant stars, Ambassador Valara joined her. "The Krexani delegation is proposing to name the first commercial quantum tunnel route after you," Valara noted, her tone conversational. Rebecca smiled slightly. "I'd rather they named it after the principle, not the person. The collaborative consciousness pathway, perhaps." They stood in companionable silence for a moment, watching the stars. "You knew," Valara said finally. "You anticipated my reaction to your presentation." Rebecca didn't deny it. "I suspected you might respond. Emotionally, though I didn't specifically predict physical contact. You had 400 quantum-capable vessels ready to deploy within hours of the incident," Valara observed. "That level of preparation suggests more than mere suspicion. Earth has been developing contingency responses since our first contact with the Council," Rebecca admitted. "When your diplomatic corps consistently dismissed our scientific contributions, we decided a more dramatic demonstration might be necessary." Valara's cybernetic implants displayed a pattern suggesting rueful amusement. "You manipulated me into creating a diplomatic incident that justified revealing your fleet. I presented factual scientific data," Rebecca corrected. "How you responded was entirely your choice. Ambassador." Valara was silent for a moment, her implants cycling through several pattern configurations. "The Unity Project will transform interstellar travel," she said finally. "The Volari monopoly on faster-than-light transportation would have ended eventually." "Change always comes," Rebecca agreed. "The question is whether we resist it or shape it together." Beyond the observation dome, a quantum field stabilized, creating a momentary rainbow effect as probability states collapsed into a single outcome, a visual metaphor for what had occurred between their species. "To new beginnings, Dr. Torres," Valara said, extending her hand in the human gesture of agreement. Rebecca took it without hesitation. "To unity through understanding, Ambassador." Neither mentioned how close they had come to interstellar conflict. Neither needed to. The lesson had been learned. The page turned. In the vast library of galactic history, the incident would be remembered not as the war that almost was, but as the collaboration that changed everything. All because of one impulsive slap.